They're not carrying the show. What do you mean? What do you mean they're not carrying the show? We don't understand that.
What if the best thing that ever happened to your career also made it impossible to enjoy anything after it? What if one person raised the bar so high for trust, for loyalty, for real laughter that nobody else could ever come close? Leah Remini doesn't say Kevin James broke her heart. She says he broke her standard. And honestly, that's so much worse. She has worked with some of the biggest names in Hollywood. She has starred in network hits, produced her own shows, and won a Primetime Emmy. But to this day, Leah Remini says there is exactly one co-star who completely wrecked her ability to settle for anything less than extraordinary. And that man is Kevin James. Today, we're going to go deep on this story because it is not just about two people who had great on-screen chemistry. It is about a secret war she fought to protect him, a friendship that survived one of the most powerful organizations in Hollywood, and a bond so real that 9 years of fake marriage started to feel more honest than anything else in either of their lives. Let's go back to 1997. Leah Remini was not riding high. She had just come off a sitcom called Fired Up, and just like the title promised, the network absolutely torched it. Canceled after 1 season. For Leah, it felt like the industry was sending her a very clear message. You had your shot, and you missed. Think about what that does to a person. You spend years grinding, you finally get your break, and then it disappears. Most people in that headspace go quiet. They take whatever comes next just to stay relevant. But here is the thing about Leah Remini. She did not go quiet. She went honest. So when her agent called with a new pitch, a CBS comedy about a blue-collar delivery driver in Queens, opposite some stand-up comedian named Kevin James, she walked into that audition not desperate, not performing, not trying to be what anyone wanted. She walked in as herself. Loud, sharp, completely unimpressed. And Kevin James saw it immediately. According to reports, James was already attached to the project and had a very specific idea of who could stand next to him. He was not looking for someone who would play it safe. He needed someone who could take a punch, comedically speaking, and fire one right back. The moment Leah started reading with him, something clicked. She would ad-lib a line. He would riff off it. He would push a joke. She would twist it into something even funnier. It was not acting. It was a conversation. But here is the part that most people do not know. The network was not sold. They were skeptical about casting someone who had just come off a canceled show. Too risky, they thought. Too unknown. According to a 2016 interview with Access Hollywood, Leah revealed that Kevin James stood up in that room, in front of the executives, and said that if it was not Leah, it was not going to be him. Full stop. Think about what that moment meant. He had not worked with her a single day. He had no obligation to her, and he put his own deal on the line for her. That was the moment the screen husband became something else entirely. That was the moment a real friendship was born. The King of Queens started filming in 1998. It ran for 9 seasons, 219 episodes, and became one of the most watched sitcoms of its era. And it all started with one actor refusing to settle for himself or for her. Now, here is where things get interesting. Because if you imagine the set of a hit sitcom, you probably picture laughter, easy camaraderie, people having the time of their lives. The reality of the King of Queens set, completely different. According to reports from TV Insider, Leah Remini and Kevin James fought constantly. Not in a scary way. In a deeply specific, almost ritual way. They would argue about line readings. They would clash over who owned a joke. They would spend 20 minutes in a heated back and forth about something that, to anyone watching, would seem completely trivial. And then the cameras would roll, and they would be perfect. Leah has talked about this openly. She says those arguments were not a problem, they were the process. They were a release valve. All that friction, all that heat, got burned off before the scene started. So when they finally had to look at each other under the lights, there was nothing left but the real thing. Get this, for many of their most intimate scenes, they would not even make eye contact until the very last second. They would be annoyed with each other right up until the director called action. And somehow, that tension, that unresolved energy between them, translated on screen as chemistry, so thick you could feel it through the TV. It was not romance. It was something rarer. It was the kind of trust that only comes from knowing someone will fight with you and still show up for you every single day. And the fights were not just about scenes. According to the list, they functioned as a single unit in the writer's room too. If a producer tried to cut a line that Leah loved, Kevin would go to bat for it. If someone pushed back on his material, she was right there beside him. They treated the script as shared property. They protected each other's comedic instincts the way a great co-author protects their partner's best ideas. Here is a question worth sitting with. Have you ever had someone in your corner like that? Someone who argues with you about everything and still fights for everything you care about? That is what Leah means when she says Kevin James set a standard. Not just as a performer, as a partner, as the kind of person who shows up to your fights and shows up to your back simultaneously. There is a moment that perfectly captures how far this friendship went beyond the set. It is 2003. Leah Remini is getting married to Angelo Pagan. She looks out at her wedding guests, and sitting in the front row is Kevin James. Not as a cameo, not as a publicity moment, as family. According to People magazine, Kevin was one of her closest friends long before the King of Queens ever existed. They had first met at a Cuban restaurant back in 1996, a full year before the show came together. So this was never just a work relationship. The show did not create the friendship. It deepened something that was already there. And it did not stop with just the two of them. Kevin's wife, Stefiana de la Cruz, became genuinely close with Leah as well. Their families blended into each other's lives in a way that had nothing to do with Hollywood optics. Double dinners, personal milestones, the kind of closeness that you simply cannot manufacture. There is another detail that adds a layer to all of this. According to a 2024 interview with People magazine, during the later seasons of the show, Stefiana was pregnant, and they had to strategically hide her baby bump behind kitchen counters, with large bags, with clever camera angles. Leah was in on it. She helped protect that secret on set, the same way she protected everyone she loved. And then there is the bigger secret, the one that Kevin knew about years before the rest of the world did. According to TV Insider, Kevin James was one of the very first people Leah confided in about her growing doubts regarding the Church of Scientology. This was years before she went public, years before the documentaries and the headlines. At a time when saying those words out loud to the wrong person could have cost her enormously, she trusted Kevin with them. He did not fully understand the scope of what she was going through, but he listened. He did not judge. He did not try to fix it or intervene or manage it. He just held the space. And for Leah, that was everything. Picture this. The person who played your TV husband turns out to be the safest person in your real life. That is not a storyline. That is something people search for their entire lives. Now here is the part of this story that almost nobody talks about. And it might be the most important part of all. In a 2024 interview with Yahoo Entertainment, Leah Remini revealed something that reframes this entire friendship. While she was still a member of the Church of Scientology, church officials were actively trying to recruit Kevin James. He was a massive star, beloved by millions, exactly the kind of high-profile name they wanted in their ranks. And Leah, from the inside, was quietly blocking every single attempt. She was under pressure from church elders to bring Kevin to events, to introduce him to officials, to open the door. Instead, she was inventing scheduling conflicts, creating distractions, lying about his availability, carrying an enormous, invisible weight every day on a set where nobody knew the battle she was fighting off camera. Think about the courage that required. She was navigating enormous institutional pressure from an organization she was still a part of, an organization that had enormous reach in her personal and professional life, and she was doing it alone, silently, to protect a friendship she refused to let them touch. And through all of this, Kevin was also becoming something else to her, a mentor. Leah has said openly that she struggled with sitcom timing early on. The pause, the hold, the precise moment where you let the audience breathe before you deliver the next line. Kevin James was a master of it. He had built his entire stand-up career on reading a room, and he translated that skill for her, patiently, across hundreds of episodes. He also taught her the business, joke ownership, how to negotiate for better storylines, how to make sure her character was not just a supporting role in someone else's show. According to sources, the confidence and knowledge she gained from those years directly led to Leah negotiating a major pay increase after the show ended, a concrete, financial result of the education she received on that set. So when she says Kevin James ruined her, she is not talking about heartbreak. She is talking about a man who made her better, kept her safe, and set a standard for partnership that nobody has been able to match since. The King of Queens ended in 2007. The finale drew millions of viewers. Kevin James moved on to a film career. Leah moved on to other projects, other chapters, other fights worth having. But they never really moved away from each other. In 2017, they reunited on screen for Kevin Can Wait, and what happened is worth noting. The show had been struggling in the ratings. Leah came in, and viewership jumped by over 25% according to TV Guide. Not because of nostalgia alone. Because the chemistry was still completely alive. The banter was instant. The energy was immediate. It was as if the 9 years apart had simply not happened. That is not acting. You cannot rehearse that. What they had built over 9 seasons had become something structural, a way of being with each other that did not need a script or a set to function. As recently as 2025, sources indicate they are still in regular contact, texting, checking in on each other's families. And in 2023, fans got a glimpse of that when a simple selfie of the two of them circulated online. Just two people, relaxed, genuinely happy to be in each other's company. No press event, no promotion, just proof that what they built is still standing. Leah Remini is in her mid-50s now. She has lived through things that would have broken a lot of people. The Scientology battle, the public fights, the years of rebuilding herself and her reputation. And through all of it, the friendship with Kevin James has remained one of the few constants she has spoken about with complete certainty. She has said, across multiple interviews between 2024 and 2025, that she has never found another co-star who came close to the standard Kevin James set. Not in chemistry, not in loyalty, not in the specific unglamorous work of showing up every day, knowing your lines, being willing to look ridiculous, and fighting for the people beside you. That is what she means by ruined. Not that everything after was bad, but that everything after was measured against something extraordinary. And most things in most industries, in most lives, do not survive that comparison. So the next time you watch a King of Queens rerun and notice just how real that marriage looks on screen, you will know the truth behind it now. It was real, not romantically, but in every way that actually lasts. It was built out of arguments about nothing and loyalty about everything. It was a friendship that survived one of Hollywood's most powerful organizations. It was a man standing up in a room full of executives to say, if not her, then not me. So here is what we want to know. Is there someone in your life who has set a standard nobody else can reach? Leave it in the comments. And if you know someone who needs to hear this story, share this video with them now.